The Phantom Vessel. The Nemesis drifted through the void, its ancient hull bearing the scars of battles long forgotten. Captain Nikolai Volkov stood motionless before the viewscreen, his weathered face illuminated by the pale glow of distant stars. 50 years in cryosleep had not been kind to him, deep lines etched into his face, hair gone silver, but his eyes remained sharp, calculating, and filled with quiet rage. "Status report," he commanded, his voice rough from decades of disuse. The ship's systems hummed in response, data streaming across auxiliary displays. The Nemesis was the last of its kind, a relic from the golden age of human expansion, when mankind had stretched its fingers across three spiral arms of the galaxy. Now those colonies were silent, their signals extinguished one by one during Nikolai's long sleep. Current location, Orion Spur approaching the hegemony border, the ship's AI announced, its voice eerily calm. Weapon systems at 87% capacity, stealth systems operational. Nikolai nodded, running a hand across the cold metal of the command console. The Nemesis had once been a crowning achievement of human engineering, a warship designed to protect the outer colonies. Now it was a ghost, haunting the spaces between stars, carrying the last memories of Earth's military might. He remembered the day he'd been ordered into cryosleep, the desperation in Admiral Hassan's eyes as he'd grasped Nikolai's shoulder. "The hegemony is blockading our supply lines. We need eyes beyond their wall, someone they won't expect." A desperate gambit sending a single ship into extended hibernation to wake when all else had failed. What no one had anticipated was how complete that failure would be. 3 weeks earlier, the Nemesis had awakened him automatically when it detected the weak signal from Outpost Omega, a forgotten human research station on the edge of what had once been friendly space. What he found there changed everything. The outpost was in ruins, its halls filled with dust and echoes. Only a single survivor remained, Lieutenant Freya Akaffer, the station's security chief. Her dark eyes had widened in disbelief when Nikolai emerged from the airlock. "You're human military," she'd whispered, lowering her weapon. "How is that possible?" In the days that followed, she'd shown him the records. The systematic destruction of human colonies, the fall of Earth, the calculated genocide engineered by the hegemony. Species that had once been allies had turned on humanity, convinced by hegemony propaganda that humans were developing planet-killer weapons. It was a lie, but an effective one. Human outposts had fallen one by one, until only isolated pockets remained, hidden or forgotten. Most survivors had been integrated into the hegemony's society as indentured laborers, their heritage and history systematically erased. "They conquered through fear," Freya had explained, her voice tight with anger. Chancellor Voros orchestrated it all, the embargo, the propaganda, the final assault. He convinced the Galactic Council that humanity was too dangerous to exist independently. Now, standing on the bridge of the Nemesis, Nikolai felt the weight of that knowledge. The hegemony had grown fat and complacent on the bones of human worlds, building their prosperity on stolen technology and appropriated resources. "They think we're extinct," he murmured, more to himself than to the empty bridge. "Let's show them how wrong they are." The Nemesis's first strike came without warning. A hegemony monitoring station in the Arcturus sector vanished in a flash of superheated plasma, its communications severed before a single distress call could be sent. The second target was a fuel depot on the outer rim, strategic, isolated, and perfect for sending a message. Nikolai watched through the viewscreen as the depot's central tanks ruptured, spewing their contents into space. The resulting explosion painted the darkness with violent oranges and reds before fading to nothing. "Hegemony response incoming," the AI reported. 3 patrol cruisers emerging from hyperspace in Sector 9. Nikolai smiled thinly, "Let them come." The patrol ships were sleek and modern, their hulls gleaming with the arrogance of an unchallenged power. Against any other opponent, they would have been formidable. Against the Nemesis, they were scrap metal waiting to happen. The ancient warship moved with impossible grace, its outdated systems guided by algorithms that had been evolving in isolation for half a century. The first hegemony cruiser didn't even have time to raise shields before a barrage of railgun fire tore through its command deck. The second managed to launch a salvo of missiles before a precisely targeted EMP pulse disabled its systems. The third turned to flee, broadcasting a frantic distress call across all frequencies. Nikolai let it go, let them know, let them remember what it meant to fear humans again. In the aftermath, as the Nemesis drifted through the debris field, Nikolai received a communication from Freya, who had infiltrated a hegemony outpost during his sleep. "They're panicking," her voice came through, distorted by encryption protocols. "The destruction of the fuel depot has thrown their entire sector defense into chaos. They don't know what hit them." "Are you safe?" Nikolai asked, concern edging his voice. Despite their brief acquaintance, he had grown to respect Freya's determination and resourcefulness. "For now, I've accessed their central network," she replied. "They're mobilizing the 7th Fleet to hunt you down. Chancellor Voros himself is overseeing the response." Nikolai's eyes narrowed. "Voros, the architect of our extinction." "Yes, but there's more," Freya continued, her voice dropping lower. "I've discovered something in their classified archives. They didn't just destroy humanity because they feared us, they wanted what we had. Earth's advanced propulsion technology, our terraforming methods. They couldn't replicate them on their own. So they took them by force," Nikolai concluded, his hands tightening into fists. "And now they're building something called the Ascension Project. I don't have details yet, but it involves technology stripped from Earth's research outposts. Voros is personally overseeing it from Thalos Prime." Nikolai's jaw tightened. Thalos Prime, the heart of the hegemony, a fortified world surrounded by defense platforms and a standing fleet. It should have been untouchable. But so was humanity once upon a time. "We need to move quickly," Freya urged. "They'll adapt to your tactics. The hegemony's military leadership isn't known for creativity, but they're thorough." "Then we'll give them a problem Theranos can't solve," Nikolai replied. "I've studied their patrol patterns. There's a weakness in their network, a maintenance corridor near the Vega Drift. We can use it to penetrate deeper into their territory." "That's suicide," Freya objected, "even with the Nemesis's capabilities." "It's not about winning a war," Nikolai cut her off. "It's about making them pay for what they did, for the billions they slaughtered for Earth." Silence hung between them for several seconds. "I can help," Freya finally said. "I've cultivated contacts within the hegemony's infrastructure. There's a growing underground movement, humans and sympathetic aliens who question the regime. With their help, I can get closer to Voros." Nikolai considered her words. A direct assault on Thalos Prime would be a death sentence even for the Nemesis, but with inside help. "Very well," he agreed, "but be careful if they discover your true identity." "They won't," she assured him. "I've survived among them for years. I know how to hide in plain sight." After the communication ended, Nikolai returned to the view screen. The stars seemed colder now, distant witnesses to humanity's tragedy. The Nemesis hummed around him, its ancient systems preparing for the next strike. He thought of Earth, the blue world he would never see again. He thought of the colonies he had once sworn to protect, now silent and dark. And he thought of Chancellor Voros, who had orchestrated it all from the safety of his fortress world. "Plot a course for the Vega Drift," he commanded the AI. "And prepare the weapon systems. The hegemony is about to remember why they feared us." As the Nemesis accelerated into the darkness, a single message began broadcasting on frequencies once used by human ships, a simple phrase in ancient Terran code: "Remember Earth." Across hegemony space, the few humans who still remembered their heritage heard it and began to hope. In the corridors of power on Thalos Prime, those who recognized the significance of the code felt the first stirrings of fear. The ghost of humanity had returned, and it was hungry for justice. Reckoning. Captain Ezra Dax stood rigid in the observation deck of the hegemony battlecruiser Indomitable, hands clasped behind his back as he surveyed the fleet gathering around Thalos Prime. 60 warships, the largest military assembly since the human extinction campaign, formed a protective net around the capital. Their gleaming hulls reflected the binary sun's light, a display of power meant to reassure the populace. But Ezra wasn't reassured. He'd spent 20 years in the hegemony defense force, rising through the ranks with ruthless efficiency, earning the nickname the Executioner for his tactical precision. Yet nothing in his experience had prepared him for the phantom warship that had torn through their defenses like paper. "Status report," he demanded of his executive officer, a tall Coraxian named Tilvek whose feathered crest bristled with anxiety. "Planetary shield at maximum capacity, sir. Orbital platforms fully armed. The Chancellor's security detail has tripled since the last incursion." Ezra nodded curtly, and the civilian evacuation. Tilvek hesitated. "Delayed, sir. Chancellor Voros has prohibited mass departures. He believes it would create unnecessary panic." A muscle twitched in Ezra's jaw, unnecessary panic. As if the destruction of 7 military installations in 2 weeks wasn't cause for alarm. As if the mysterious signal now echoing across supposedly secure channels, "Remember Earth," wasn't stirring unrest among the integrated human populations. "Sir," Tilvek ventured, "do you really believe it's a human warship? The records state their military capability was completely neutralized decades ago." Ezra turned to face his officer, gray eyes cold. "The records state many things, Lieutenant, most of them convenient to the current administration." He paused, considering how much to reveal. "I've studied the attack patterns, the weapons signatures, they match historical data from Earth's deep space fleet." "But that's impossible," Tilvek protested. "Those ships were destroyed at the Battle of Arcturus. We all learned about the triumph in Academy." "You learned propaganda," Ezra thought but didn't say. Instead, he dismissed his officer with a curt nod and returned his gaze to the stars. Somewhere out there, the ship called Nemesis was coming, and with it, questions Ezra had buried long ago. Deep within the governmental complex of Thalos Prime, Chancellor Voros paced the length of his private chambers, clawed hands twitching with barely controlled fury. The latest report lay scattered across his desk: another outpost destroyed, another security breach in their supposedly impenetrable network. "Find me that ship," he snarled at the holographic projection of Admiral Kress, the fleet commander. "I want it obliterated. No survivors, no salvage, nothing for the history books." The Admiral's scaled face remained impassive. "We're deploying everything we have, Chancellor, but this vessel, it doesn't behave like anything in our tactical database. It appears and disappears at will." "Then create new tactics. Must I micromanage every aspect of our defense?" Voros slammed his fist on the desk, sending the reports fluttering to the floor. "The Ascension project is too close to completion. We cannot allow interruptions." "Yes, Chancellor," the Admiral's image flickered as he bowed. "There is one other matter. The human integration camps on Proxima Colony are reporting increased unrest. This signal." "Suppress it," Voros cut him off. "Increase security at all camps. Any human displaying seditious behavior is to be immediately transferred to the project facilities." As the Admiral's image faded, Voros turned to the window overlooking the gleaming spires of the capital. For 3 decades, he had guided the hegemony's expansion, transforming it from a loose confederation into the dominant power in the sector. The human threat had been the perfect catalyst, a common enemy around which to rally the member species. His communicator chimed. "Chancellor, your new security advisor has arrived," announced his secretary. Voros straightened his ceremonial robes. "Send her in." The woman who entered moved with fluid grace, her uniform immaculate, her dark skin contrasting with silver-white hair pulled into a severe bun. Her eyes revealed nothing as she bowed precisely the correct depth for her station. "Security Advisor Nyota reporting as ordered, Chancellor." Voros gestured for her to approach. "Your record is impressive, Advisor, especially your work analyzing human behavioral patterns in the integration camps." "Thank you, Chancellor." Her voice was measured, professional. "I believe understanding one's enemy is the first step to true victory." Indeed, Voros activated a holographic display showing the predicted path of the Nemesis. "And what do you understand about this ghost from humanity's past?" Nyota studied the projection, her expression thoughtful. "This is not random terrorism, Chancellor. Each target has strategic significance. Whoever commands that vessel is executing a carefully planned campaign." "To what end? Revenge? The humans lost their war decades ago." "Perhaps," Nyota's eyes narrowed. "Or perhaps they're creating a diversion for something else entirely." Voros felt a chill crawl down his spine. "Explain." "The attacks draw our forces to predictable locations, thinning our coverage elsewhere." Her finger traced a pattern through the star map. "If I were planning an infiltration of Thalos Prime itself, this is exactly how I would begin." In the maintenance tunnels beneath the hegemony's Central Intelligence Division, Freya Akafer, now operating under the identity of Security Advisor Nyota, carefully placed the final transmitter. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands remained steady as she activated the device. A small green light blinked 3 times, then went dark as the transmitter blended into its surroundings. She checked her chronometer. 20 minutes until her next security briefing with Voros. 20 minutes to transmit the access codes to Nikolai. The past weeks had been a dangerous game of deception. While Nikolai and the Nemesis had drawn the hegemony's attention with their surgical strikes, Freya had maneuvered herself into the highest levels of security through a combination of falsified credentials and genuine expertise. The irony wasn't lost on her. The hegemony had brought her in as an expert on human behavior precisely because they feared what the Nemesis represented. Fear had made them predictable. Fear would be their undoing. She made her way to a maintenance terminal and plugged in a data chip, her fingers flying over the keyboard. As she worked, she couldn't help but think about Nikolai, the man out of time, carrying the weight of a dead civilization on his shoulders. When they'd first met at the outpost, she'd thought him a relic, perhaps even unhinged by his long hibernation. Now she understood he was something else entirely. He was retribution. The terminal beeped softly as the data transfer completed. Freya removed the chip, crushed it underfoot, and composed herself before heading to the Chancellor's office. As she walked the pristine corridors of power, she passed integrated humans, servants, analysts, menial workers, all with the same vacant expression, their identities and history stripped away by hegemony education programs. Soon, she promised them silently, soon you'll remember who you are. The Nemesis emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Thalos system, its hull crackling with dissipating energy. Nikolai stood on the bridge, surveying the massive defensive array arranged before him. The hegemony had spared no expense, a wall of warships, orbital platforms bristling with weaponry, and the faint shimmer of a planetary shield enveloping the capital world. Receiving data packet, the AI announced. Origin Thalos Prime, authentication Lieutenant Akafer. Nikolai nodded, process and display. The tactical display updated with new information. Shield frequencies, patrol routes, blind spots in the sensor network. Most importantly, the location of the Ascension project, a massive installation built into Thalos Prime's largest moon. What are we looking at? Nikolai murmured, studying the schematics. Based on the provided data, the AI responded, the Ascension project appears to be a massive propulsion system utilizing stolen human zero-point energy technology. If activated, it could move the entire Thalos system through space at superluminal speeds. Nikolai's blood ran cold. They're turning the planet into a ship. Correct. Analysis suggests this technology could allow the hegemony to bypass traditional space lanes, deploying their military anywhere in the galaxy without warning. The implications were staggering. With such capability, the hegemony could crush any remaining human outposts, any potential resistance, anywhere they emerged. It would cement their dominance for centuries to come. Time to completion, Nikolai asked. Estimated at less than 48 hours. Nikolai's jaw set in a hard line. Then we move now, prepare the main drive for burst acceleration, target the gap between defense platforms 7 and 8. The Nemesis surged forward, its ancient engines roaring to life with renewed purpose. On the bridge, warning systems flashed as the ship accelerated beyond safe parameters, hull plates groaning under the strain. Hegemony fleet responding, the AI reported. Intercept course plotted. Nikolai didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, on the narrow corridor through the defensive screen that Freya's data had revealed. A path to the heart of the enemy, purchased with decades of patience and pain. The first salvo from the hegemony fleet filled space with deadly light. The Nemesis twisted in response, its point defense systems responding automatically, intercepting most of the incoming fire. What got through scorched the ancient hull, leaving new scars alongside the old. Return fire, Nikolai commanded. Target the lead vessel's propulsion systems only. The Nemesis unleashed its own weapons, not in a blind barrage but with surgical precision. The lead hegemony cruiser, the Indomitable, shuddered as multiple impacts disabled its primary engines. On the bridge of the damaged Indomitable, Captain Ezra Dax gripped his command chair as the ship listed to port, emergency systems blaring. The status, he barked. Main propulsion offline, reported his tactical officer. Weapons still operational, but the targeting system is compromised. Ezra studied the view screen, watching as the human vessel continued its run toward the planet, its maneuvers defying conventional tactics. It wasn't attempting to destroy the hegemony fleet, it was disabling them, creating a path directly to Thalos Prime. It's targeting the moon, he realized suddenly, the Ascension project. Lieutenant Tilvek turned to him, confused. Sir, should we inform the Chancellor? Ezra hesitated, decades of loyalty warring with the unsettling doubts that had plagued him since the appearance of the Nemesis. Throughout his career, he had served the hegemony faithfully, believing in its mission of galactic unity. But the ruthlessness of the human extermination campaign had never sat right with him, and the Chancellor's recent orders using civilians as shields, accelerating the mysterious project, had only deepened his misgivings. Sir Tilvek Preston. Ezra made his decision. Lock weapons on defense platforms 7 and 8, fire when ready. But sir, those are ours. That's an order, Lieutenant. The Indomitable's remaining weapons batteries swiveled and opened fire, not on the Nemesis, but on the hegemony's own defense platforms. The unexpected attack caught the automated systems off guard. Explosions bloomed in silence, widening the gap in the defensive screen. Captain Dax, Admiral Kress's furious face appeared on the communication screen. What in the void are you doing? Ezra met his gaze steadily. What should have been done years ago? The Ascension Project violates every treaty the hegemony has ever signed, and the Chancellor's methods, he shook his head. We were supposed to be better than this. You're committing treason, Dax. No, Admiral, I'm preventing it. With that, Ezra severed the connection and turned to his stunned bridge crew. Anyone who wishes to leave their post may do so now. What follows is my responsibility alone. No one moved. The Nemesis streaked toward the moon, trailing fire and debris, pursued by the remaining hegemony vessels that hadn't been disabled or diverted by the unexpected civil conflict erupting in their ranks. The path cleared by Captain Dax's surprise intervention had given Nikolai the opening he needed. Multiple impacts, the AI reported as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Hull integrity at 62% and falling, primary weapons array compromised. Nikolai nodded grimly, deploy the payload. From the belly of the Nemesis, a cluster of objects detached, specialized infiltration drones carrying enhanced EMP charges. Designed to penetrate the Ascension Project's defenses and disable the core systems without destroying the facility outright. Because destruction wasn't Nikolai's goal, not anymore. Set course for the capital, he ordered, and prepare the landing craft. In Chancellor Voros's command center, chaos reigned. Reports flooded in of Captain Dax's betrayal, of the human vessel breaking through their defenses, of the infiltration drones targeting the Ascension Project. And now, the most alarming news of all, a small craft had detached from the Nemesis and was headed directly for the governmental district. Evacuate me immediately, Voros demanded, gathering critical data files. And execute Protocol Omega, destroy all evidence of the project. His aides scrambled to comply, but they froze as the security doors hissed open. Freya stood in the doorway, her disguise discarded, a hegemony weapon aimed steadily at the Chancellor's heart. Hello, Chancellor, she said quietly. Remember me, Lieutenant Freya Akafer, Earth Defense Force. You ordered the bombardment of my homeworld. Voros's eyes widened in recognition and fear. How did you get past security? She smiled coldly. I've been hiding in plain sight for years, watching, waiting. Your arrogance made it easy. You never really look at humans, do you? We're just resources to be exploited, tools to be used and discarded. The Chancellor's hand inched toward a hidden panel on his desk. Whatever you're planning, it's too late. The Ascension Project is nearly complete. The hegemony will. The project is being disabled as we speak, Freya cut him off. And your fleet is in disarray. It seems not all your officers share your vision for the future. A distant explosion rattled the building, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. In the momentary distraction, Voros lunged for an emergency weapon concealed in his robes. Freya fired without hesitation, the energy blast striking his shoulder, spinning him to the ground. That was for Earth, she said, advancing on him. And this, she aimed again, is for all the humans you've enslaved. Before she could fire, the wall behind her exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped Nikolai Volkov, his armor scorched and battered, his face streaked with blood, but his eyes burning with the same cold determination they had carried across 50 years and countless light years. Captain, Freya acknowledged without looking away from Voros. Lieutenant, Nikolai moved to stand beside her, his own weapon trained on the Chancellor. I see you found our target. Voros struggled to his knees, clutching his wounded shoulder. Kill me if you must, he spat. It changes nothing. The hegemony will hunt down every last human. Your species is finished. That's where you're wrong, came a new voice. Captain Ezra Dax stepped through the ruined wall, flanked by several officers. His uniform was torn, his face grim. The hegemony was founded on principles of cooperation and mutual advancement, not genocide and theft. Traitor Voros hissed. No, Ezra replied calmly. I'm finally being loyal to what the hegemony should be. He turned to Nikolai and Freya. The defense grid is down. Captain Dax, Fleet Security Division. I've ordered my ships to stand down. Nikolai regarded him warily. Why? Because I've seen the archives, Ezra admitted, the real records of what happened to Earth, what we did in the name of progress. He gestured to the fallen Chancellor, what he ordered us to do. Freya's weapon remained steady. That doesn't bring back the billions who died. No, Ezra agreed quietly. Nothing can, but perhaps we can start by acknowledging the truth, by making reparations, by ending the integration camps and restoring the human colonies that remain. Nikolai studied the hegemony captain, looking for deception and finding only weariness and resolve. Finally, he lowered his weapon slightly. The Ascension Project, Nikolai said, what was its true purpose? Ezra's expression darkened. Not movement, as you might have surmised, erasure. The technology was designed to shift our solar system into a pocket dimension, leaving behind a dead zone where no human technology would function. A final solution to what the Chancellor called the human question. Freya inhaled sharply, total extinction. Yes, using the very zero-point technology your people pioneered. Ezra looked genuinely ashamed. Many in the fleet didn't know. We were told it was a defensive measure, a shield against theoretical threats. Chancellor Voros laughed bitterly from the floor. You fools, the humans were building world killers. I saw the evidence myself. Falsified evidence, Nikolai replied coldly. Created by your own intelligence services to justify the embargo that crippled our defenses. We found the proof in your own archives. A tense silence filled the ruined office, broken only by distant alarms and the crackle of fires throughout the capital. Finally, Nikolai stepped forward and hauled Voros to his feet. The Nemesis carries something more valuable than weapons, he said, his voice low and dangerous. It carries truth, every record, every document, every piece of evidence showing what really happened, what you did to us. Freya nodded, and now that truth will be broadcast across the galaxy, to every world, every station, every settlement with a receiver. Fear flashed across Voros's face. You'll destabilize the entire sector without the hegemony's control. Without your lies, Ezra interrupted, we have a chance to build something better, something true. Outside, the skies of Thalos Prime were filled with ships, not just military vessels but transports and civilian craft, drawn by the unauthorized broadcasts already spreading across the network. The signal that had started as a whisper, "Remember Earth," had become a shout that could not be ignored. Nikolai looked out at the gathering fleet, at the moon where the Ascension Project now lay dormant, at the frightened but resolute face of Captain Dax, and finally at Freya, who had carried the torch of human memory through decades of darkness. What now, Captain? She asked quietly. Nikolai considered the question. The Nemesis had come seeking vengeance, carrying the ghosts of a murdered world. But perhaps there was another path. Now, he said finally, we remember, and we rebuild. As the binary suns of Thalos set on the horizon, casting long shadows across the damaged capital, something new began to stir in the hearts of humans and aliens alike. Not the cold certainty of revenge, but the cautious possibility of renewal. The ghost ship had brought not just fire, but light. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, Earth's legacy lived on.